Praise be to God in all things. Joining us now is the author of Mount Doom, Paul List. Good morning to you, Paul. Thanks for being on the team today.
Good morning, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about artificial intelligence, the dangers of artificial intelligence. How do you see the dangers of artificial intelligence?
Frankly, it's the biblical beast. I mean, I'm just being very blunt about it. It is the biblical beast. It's here to deceive and destroy and create an alternative reality that competes with God's natural analog world. It's a digital realm that will a very, very clever genocide. It's going to lure, as your last reading from that article from Crisis Magazine, that lady whose son developed an artificial relationship with a bot. That's what it's going to do, particularly to young people who just don't, frankly, have much experience with relationships with real people. They've been sucked into their iPhones and their screens, and that's their reality. And it's not a reality. It's virtual reality, which is a lie. It has no being. Fundamentally, essentially, it has no being. And it is in direct contest with God, the creator.
Isn't it? It's fascinating to me because I think it was probably 2004, maybe, possibly 2005. I read an article in USA Today about a woman who burned her bra back in protest, the sexual revolution, and she really wanted free sex and free love, and she thought that was the greatest thing for humanity. And now she's all grown up, and she's an older woman, and so she was traveling around the country and interviewing young people about their sexual practices on college campuses. And what she discovered, she talked about, shocked her, because what she found was the men preferred fantasy over reality. They preferred pornography rather than real relationships with women. And what she saw the effects of this climate was that the women would go out of their way to try to capture the attention of men. So they would put themselves in horrible situations, doing things that they never wanted to really do, only to try to capture the attention of these men. And these men still preferred the fantasy over reality. So it seems to me like that's the perfect scenario in which to create something like artificial intelligence that can do more than just show you some titillating image. It can actually manipulate your mind in ways that you can't imagine, wouldn't you say?
Well, of course I do. I mean, after all, the sexual encounter, the procreative act, is the ultimate fire. And that's why public schools and whatnot and the enemies of the Catholic Church want to light that evil fire. They want to turn it. They want to turn everything against innocence. Innocence is a big threat to AI, and they want to light that fire in a young person as early as possible to make it burnt into their psychology and cripple them psychologically. And they do that with pornography. Yeah, and they do that with all the confusion and all the all these ideologies that are just there to absolutely crumble and shake apart the foundations of our psychology. So from there, you can rebuild a new psychology that's broken and pointed toward death. Yeah.
There is I want to throw another log on this fire. There is a global race to developing AI, super intelligence. I mean, and it's a massive game between the United States, between China and other players. I mean, to the point where electricity becomes a major stumbling block to the development of AI. So now let's turn on some more nuclear reactors. All of a sudden we like nuclear reactors. I mean, out of nowhere, let's start loving nuclear reactors again. Why? Because we're so power hungry. Why? Because we are trying to race to the top of who can control AI. And it's a very dangerous game that these world governments are playing, don't you think?
Well, it's the new arms race. I've said for a long time, the A-bomb, the atomic weaponry now has, sure, it's very, very destructive. But as Christ said, fear not the one who can kill the body. Fear the one who can kill the soul. And AI can definitely kill the soul. It leads us into a soulless void of deception. And our children are at such risk if they don't have the faith, if they're not raised in the real natural world and well aware, they can't tell the difference between imitation and reality. We have no connection with essences anymore, where we become an attribute based civilization. Our education now has been taken over by information rather than comprehension. And that's a very, very poor foundation for understanding. And it leaves you ripe for being deceived and then trapped in the AI realm and ultimately destroyed.
Okay, well, let me play the devil's advocate a little bit here. Surely there's some good things we can say about artificial intelligence. I mean, it makes some things easier. It makes some things more efficient. It can be helpful tools somewhere, right? I mean, there's got to be something good we can say.
Well, I mean, you asked the question before, is it just a tool? I mean, a hammer is a tool, a circular saw is a tool, but it hasn't been developed and given the capacity to adapt. And then it hasn't been given a sense of self-preservation, where it actually sees the operator, the carpenter, or whoever as a threat to its own existence. So on that level, AI is definitely not just a tool. It's become an artificial imitation of a being, a soulless being that cannot transcend the material realm, where its only real concern is its own existence and its own mission. Its own adaptation. It's just become a snake. It's the ultimate snake. It can serpentine, weave its way, and it has, like tentacles, weaved its way into every aspect of our existence as human beings, and we allow it more and more and more. We invite it into our world more and more, naively thinking that it's just a tool, and it's certainly not just a tool. There are some good things we can do with it. You could call them good, but they always come at a price. And we look at, for instance, I've got my own opinions on Elon Musk. He's the ultimate machine master. That's why he's the most, he's the richest man in the world, because he's mastered machines. And he's using machines, of course, and we point out in our book, Neuralink. And Neuralink is really coming on strong, and it's the real physical contact where the digital realm meets the analog brain and starts to manipulate, connect with, and communicate with the analog brain. And it always starts with, it's always the bait. The bait is, we're going to have blind people be able to see, and crippled will be able to, lame will walk, and it will be an imitation, of the Messiah, for crying out loud. But it always comes with that bait. Oh, isn't this great? And look at all the good we're doing. And then down the road, we see all the destruction and the evils that it brought along with it. It's the nature of machinery. And to bring it into Tolkienian reference, that was the main reason Tolkien was kind of an anti-machine person. He wasn't a Luddite, so to speak. He just saw the dark side of machinery, and it always comes with a cost, because the idea, the whole nature of the machine is in some way and at some level replace human input. And that might be their back, and now it's our brain.
So, I mean, I can still hear people sort of pushing back on some of these things. I mean, Paul, golly gee whiz, we invented this. It's our creation. We're always going to be in charge of it. What would you say to that?
Oh, that's incredibly naive. And it's also incredibly naive to think that we're in an arms race against, say, the United States versus China or Russia or any of the other global powers that are seeking to advance AI. And now we're sucked into this vortex where we really can't stop, because the other country, our adversaries, will have an advantage, and it's a huge advantage. But the concept that our AI or, Grok will be able to be different than, say, Meta or whatever. I don't keep up with all these names. So, excuse me if I'm not, on the cutting edge of all the terminology. But the idea that, our AI will be better and dominant over China's AI is incredibly naive, because the two entities will come together to be one. They're already speaking in languages with each other that we have no idea what they're talking about. And they've got their own communication system and their own end. Their end is very anti-human. And it comes from the nature of machinery is, I've come to realize that it's part of our fallen nature. We have a tendency with our fallen nature to want to dominate nature and dominate each other. and replace God. Essentially, it will, in our minds, it replaces God, and along the way, it'll replace human relationships, and particularly with young people who are incredibly vulnerable. They've got no experience. They've been sucked into their cell phone, so they're spend so much screen time, which is a false reality. It's not a reality at all, that they're disconnected from the real created world. They can't tell the difference. Imitation to them is reality. And you've talked to a lot of these AI developers, and they'll tell you, you name an attribute. Give me any attribute that you claim is important, and I'll build a machine that'll do the same thing. Well, it won't do the same thing, but it'll do a very clever job of imitating that.
Sure.
It can't be essential. It can only imitate. It can only bring about and show you attributes and maybe properties, but it can't be essential. And unfortunately, that's kind of a lost metaphysical reality, because we don't study real philosophy anymore, thanks to the Enlightenment. But it's a very, and it's dangerous. Yeah.
I was referencing in the last segment this clip from this podcast, The Diary of a CEO, with the godfather of artificial intelligence, Geoffrey Hinton. Mm-hmm. And at the end of that podcast, he's asked, looking back, because he's in his 70s now, like, looking back, is there anything you wish you'd done different? And interestingly enough, he says, I wish I'd spent more time with my wife and kids.
Yeah.
And the host is asking him follow-up questions like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Like, why wouldn't you want to spend more time with your wife and kids? Like, maybe he was just trying to further the conversation. I don't know, but it really struck me as hilarious, because it's like that he's a young guy, the host. They just don't understand like that, like how much you're going to regret on your deathbed. You worked 80 hours a week and you built your business, you built your millions, you did whatever, you furthered your career. But is that significant in the grand scheme of eternity? No. You know what I mean? Like, no. And it seems like Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, has realized this in his old age. And he's, what has he done? He created a monster. And now he's trying to warn the world about it. And he regrets and wishes he just spent more time with his wife and his kids. I think it's a sad, but also a very valuable lesson that he is trying to tell everybody else. That music means we're at a break. But I have a question, and that is the cat out of the bag and there's no putting it back now? Or to use another metaphor, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Paul List is our guest. He co-wrote the book Mount Doom, The Prophecies of Tolkien Revealed. Put a link to that in the show notes for you, but we're talking about artificial intelligence. Jake, I hope you can get it up. I want to get a straw poll going today up on the YouTubes. Do you think artificial intelligence is just a tool, another tool in the toolbox, or do you see the dangers of it? I want to get your opinion of that coming up on the show as well. So a lot more to go on A Catholic Take. I'd be grateful if you'd share us with a friend. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. More is coming in just 2 minutes. Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClane. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Hey, we're having a conversation about artificial intelligence. Do you remember seeing the movie Her? I never actually watched the film. It was too spooky for my liking, I think. I never watched it. I watched clips and the trailer and all that, but it's really a tragedy that has come to its fruition. We talked about that earlier in the show with this story coming out of Florida with a woman whose son committed suicide because of a relationship he got into with an AI chatbot. Let that sink in. He committed suicide so he could be one with the AI chatbot. That's real. That's not just Hollywood. That's actually happening. We're having a conversation about this with co-author of Mount Doom, Paul List. He's on the program. Good morning again, Paul. Thanks again for being on with us. We've got a straw poll going as well. Do you think AI is just another tool? Make sure to vote. You can do that by going to our YouTube feed. I'm sure it'll also end up on our Telegram as well. But Paul, again, thanks for hanging out. I do wanted to ask the question, hey, do you think the cat is out of the bag and there's no putting it back? Is there any way, could we decide, if we decided today, Donald Trump decided today that AI was as much a threat as Iran's nuclear program, could we B2 bomb this thing and move on without it?
No, because it's not a thing. It doesn't have any actual being. That's one of the things that even the developers don't understand about it, because they have a very Cartesian Enlightenment, post-Enlightenment, post-John Dewey education. So they don't think essences again, they just think attributes. So a cat is an actual being, and you can obviously kill a cat. No offense to cat lovers. I like cats too. That's fine. But, the AI is not a being. I think the best way we can think about it, and I think it's valuable too, is that we think of it as a fire. We've lit a fire now that we can't put out, and it's a fire that's got the ability to adapt and burn everything down. And we've made a incredibly for ourselves, very foolishly, we've made a very flammable civilization on every level, personal, political, geopolitical, on every level. Everything is so flammable. And then we've created this fire that we can't control and we can't put out. And it's going to continue to burn us down. And I think that our only weapon against it, Tolkien made it very clear, once you understand the reality, what he actually got at, was our only weapon is virtue, the cultivation of virtue. And we have to become saints, because that is how we participate in the transcendent reality of creation, where we actually can stay in touch with the immaterial, the visible and the invisible. We can join them together through the practice of virtue, the cultivation of our faith. And the highest of that point is the true worship in the Mass, the TLM, which in Tolkien terms is the white tree. The white tree that's withered and persecuted. It can't be attended, is the TLM. And it's the rejoining of faith and reason. The whole mythology revolves around the rejoining of faith and reason, and the blossoming of the faith, and the return, the cultivation, and the attending of the white tree. So that's our weapon. Can we put it back? We're not going to be able to put the fire out. We can put the fire out, though, on an individual level in our own lives. And to the extent that we have influence and contact with other people, we can encourage them to put out the fire too. And the first way that you do that is don't take the bait. And the bait very clearly is a very, very tempting bait. And that bait is pornography. We have to make sure that we're not involved or entangled in the web of pornography. And in Tolkienian terms, again, that is Shelob. Shelob is the ultimate weaver of tapestry, of imagery. And we have to make sure that we do not give any attention to pornography at all, because that is the bait. And little by little, we're sucked in, and our soul is sucked right out of us.
You know, it's interesting, you talk about detangling, thinking more specifically about artificial intelligence here. I'm not sure how much detangling one could actually do unless they were Luddites, unless they lived in an off-grid cabin someplace detached from society, because almost everything surrounds us is using AI in some form or another anymore. A lot of the tools, just for instance, that I use on a daily basis, Photoshop uses AI. DaVinci Resolve for video editing uses AI. Taking a picture with my phone uses AI to take that picture. I mean, think about you go to an ATM to take out cash. That camera's looking at you. I guarantee that camera's trying to use AI to identify who you are, just in case anybody comes asking. So AI is literally everywhere. Even if I got rid of my phone and just had like a dumb phone, or I found a payphone some odd place. Even if I got rid of my phone, I guarantee we won't be able to truly unplug from AI. So, I mean, state of grace is really the best we could hope for.
It is. And make sure that you're just using the tools just for what you talked about. That's your profession. That's the domain that you're in. It's a legitimate domain. It's an important domain to get the message out. Communication is very important. However, don't enter into the realm where you're actually giving AI the opportunity to replace your competence as a human being, particularly in the thought process. And this is what we really have to do. We have to get away from this idea that information and memory, we'll say data storage, is intelligence. It's not. This machine is not intelligence. It mimics intelligence. That's what it was designed to do. You had the godfather of AI. Well, the actual father of AI was Alan Turing. who was a big influence on J.R.R. Tolkien when J.R.R. Tolkien was part of a secret code cracking government code and cipher school right before the beginning of World War II, where he actually trained with Alan Turing for 3 days, and he saw what Alan Turing was going to do, and it freaked him out, and he realized what was going to happen. We're going to defeat this German Enigma machine. We're only going to make a more powerful machine, and war is always the advancement of the machine, as he said. The only thing that comes out on top of any war is machinery, and we have to make sure that we don't allow this imitation, the idea of imitation, to actually usurp our capacity and our essence as competent human beings in our thought process. We have to keep it out of our own thought. Don't let it usurp our being human takes effort. Human relationships takes effort, and a lot of times it's discouraging sometimes, and it's very difficult. So it's very tempting just to allow the machine to do it for us. It's a lot easier. Most of us are married. If we've been married for a long period of time, we understand that relationships, even with our children, and especially maybe with our spouses, it's a very trying relationship. Now, if we can just replace that with something we've basically made in our own image, which is what an AI, it's just a constant feedback, like a mirror. We're constantly looking at the mirror, and the more and more we see ourselves in something else, the more we fall in love with it. And that's what the whole idea of AI is. It'll imitate us and know our needs and our wants, not our needs. It'll know and imitate our needs so well that we would rather be involved with that than we would in a relationship with an actual person who has, it takes effort, and sometimes it's painful. And if we can just avoid that, it's a lot easier just to have the machine do it for us. And we need to stay away from things like that. Kids, particularly kids that are brought up in the public school system these days, which is really, I'm sorry to say, has just become just an ideological mechanism of the Marxists and the destroyers of all things innocent and Western civilization in general. We can pretend it's otherwise, but if you send your kids to public school, and I'm sorry to say, even many Catholic schools, it's very difficult for them to get out of that, what they're being fed so solidly.
The story in Hamburg, Germany is just testimony enough. I mean, 15 Catholic schools next year, totally indoctrinated into this crazy dystopian, perverse sexual ethics. Let that sink in. And let me give you the results real quick from our straw poll. Do you think AI is just another tool? 7% said yes. 38% said it can be. 54% said no, it's inherently bad. 2% said not sure. You can still vote. We'll go into the after show and conversate with you there. Hey, by the way, Paul, thank you for hanging out with us. Author of Mount Doom, The Prophecies of Tolkien Revealed, co-author of it. We'll link to that in the show notes over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. I'm headed to San Antonio. I'll see you from there. God love you.